What's going on YouTube? It is Reebles back in another video. In today's video, we have another Chelsea news video. It's kind of a two-in-one. Obviously, you can probably tell by my voice I'm a little bit sick, so that's why there was no video yesterday. I'm feeling really under the weather, but there's a ton of stuff that kicked off yesterday as well as this morning. It's 9 a.m. here, so a lot to get into. So let's just start talking about our favorite target, Xavi Simons. Matt Law said that Chelsea already set up a deal with RB Leipzig for Xavi Simons. You know, I talked about this multiple times. I already said I feel like there's a gentleman's agreement between Leipzig and Chelsea for Xavi Simons. It's just when we can get those outgoings out, that's when we're going to submit the official proposal, and that's when Xavi Simons will become a Chelsea player. Um, and yeah, Matt Law pretty much confirmed that, saying that we've already set up a deal with them. I've been saying this for weeks and weeks now. It seems like conversations pretty much are done. It's just when can we get Nkunku out? When can we get Jackson out? Which there's information on both of them actually. Plus another outgoing in Renato Veiga in this video, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, there's multiple outgoings that we need to get out the door first before we bring in another player, and that's why Xavi Simons hasn't come through the door yet. But as you can see, that we already have set up a deal with RB Leipzig for him. It's just when can we trigger it, and that when is when Jackson and Nkunku leave the club. Um, but furthermore, Fabrizio this morning said that another important English club, not Manchester City or Arsenal, tried to sign Xavi Simons, but the player position is that he wants Chelsea. I'm interested to see who this is because we know that Arsenal were interested. They contacted his agent. We know Bayern Munich were interested, but obviously they're not an English club. We know Manchester City were linked at some point in time, but it doesn't seem like they really went in for him. So maybe it's Tottenham. I don't think Liverpool would because obviously they just signed Florian Wirtz for that 10 position. Maybe they see Xavi off that left, so it could be Liverpool. I think it's Spurs, to be honest. I think Spurs, there was some links a couple weeks ago about him potentially going there that, died down pretty quickly because I guess he just wants Chelsea and only wants Chelsea. But, if I'm thinking of a likely destination for Xavi Simons, now that Spurs are in for Eze, I could see Xavi doing that same role over there. So I do think that Tottenham were the other club that did come in for Xavi Simons, but at the end of the day, he rejected every other club. Says he only wants Chelsea, and he will become a Chelsea player once we do get our outgoings complete, which I expect to happen in the coming weeks. Because obviously there's 11 days left in the transfer window, so I fully expect Xavi Simons to become a Chelsea player. It's just going to be a matter of when, not if, and that when is when we get those outgoings. And Nkunku headed to maybe Bayern Munich, maybe another club, which I'll talk about in this video. Jackson to a potential club that we'll also talk about in this video. Um, but moving on from Xavi Simons to a target that we don't really like all that much. Fabrizio said that Chelsea are advancing in club-to-club talks for Alejandro Garnacho. Deal underway with Man United. Excellent relationship between United's CEO Barada and Chelsea hierarchy. Garnacho only wants Chelsea and turned down an approach from Bayern in the last 48 hours. No chance. He also went to say on his Instagram that we can expect that he will go soon for Garnacho. So maybe it comes in the coming days or not, but I do fully expect it to be sometime near deadline day that we do get Garnacho. But yeah, we're advancing in club-to-club talks. It seems like the deal is well underway. Apparently he turned down Bayern Munich, but it doesn't really make sense because Bayern Munich said that they're only doing loan deals for the rest of the summer. So I don't know if they came with United for a loan with an obligation for Garnacho or something like that. But apparently he turned down Bayern Munich and says he only wants to go to Chelsea and stay in England, which I'll fully back him on if that's what he wants to do. If he wants to just stay in England, become a Chelsea player, then he does have my full backing. But I think our priority should be Xavi Simons because I do think he's pretty much double the player that Garnacho is. But I do think Garnacho does have a lot of potential, so I wouldn't be too mad if we see him as a developmental player. But more, Mike Keegan of the Daily Mail said that Manchester United will not accept a deal worth less than £50 million for Garnacho. They feel he is at least equal to Madueke and that his stats line up well with Jamie Gittins. I don't know how many times I have to say this. Man United, you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get £50 million for Garnacho. Just sorry to break that to you. You know, you forced him out the club. He doesn't want to be there anymore. He only wants Chelsea. He's rejected Bayern Munich. And he said if he doesn't go to Chelsea, then he's just going to rot away on the bench and take, money from you because you are paying him wages. So, you know, you have no negotiating standpoint here. Chelsea are not going to budge. We don't really necessarily need him. He's just going to be another option for us if he does come through the door. It's not like he's going to be a nailed-on starter. It's not like that position's a necessity because we do have Jamie Gittins on Madueke. We didn't have to sell him. Arsenal were the ones that came knocking first. It wasn't like he was transfer listed or wanted out or anything like that. If Arsenal did not come in for him, he'd probably be playing right now. But they did. He decided that he was open to the move after Arsenal did come in for him. So they said, okay, now we'll compare you to other players in the market that we think you're similar to find what that perfect fee is. Um, so yeah, you had no negotiating standpoint here. You're not going to get 50 million pounds. You're going to get 35 at most. I'd say maybe 40, but don't really have anything to stand on right now in terms of Alejandro Garnacho. The manager's publicly said he wants him out. The player said he publicly wants out. The club has said they publicly want him out. So you don't really have any negotiating standpoint to really give a benchmark. So I understand you're a little bit of a circus now, but you can snap back to reality because you're not getting 50 million for Garnacho. But more. Sky Cave said that Alejandro Garnacho has turned down a move to Bayern Munich. He wants to sign for Chelsea and is hoping they can agree a deal with Manchester United. Not interested in a loan, so I'm guessing that does confirm that Bayern Munich did go in for him, but for a loan deal, so that's why he did end up rejecting it. But it has seemed this entire summer that Garnacho only wants Chelsea, and that he's going to reject every other club unless it is Chelsea. If not, he's going to rot on the bench for Manchester United, take wages, take money from them. So again, they really don't have a negotiating standpoint. They're really just going to have to sell them to Chelsea if they really want the player to, go. If they don't, then fine, you can keep him. He can stay on your bench. It's not really going to cause a fuss with the Chelsea fan base. It's not like we really want him all that much, but it's funny to see that United fans are now finally starting to call him a star boy player with loads of potential, even though they were bashing it for the last pretty much entire year. But moving on. Fabrizio on his podcast today said that Chelsea believe that in a different environment, Garnacho can become a cheap key player for Enzo Maresca. Chelsea sees talent and also his value. Let's see if it will be 30 million, 35 or 40 million pounds, but Chelsea sees potential. I can understand this. I mean, obviously, Garnacho has shown flashes at Man United, especially when they were cooking that season under Ten Hag, when I think they finished third or second, something like that. But yeah, I do think Garnacho may be a player that thrives in a different environment, and I think Enzo Maresca may be able to have a plan for him. So yeah, we'll definitely see how that develops. We'll see how Garnacho ends up developing actually. But I do think he could be a very good player in the right environment. I do think he does have a lot of potential, and maybe that's why United value him so highly. But then again, you have no negotiating standpoint. You can see that Fabrizio's not even touching anywhere near that 50 million pound mark for Garnacho. So, it seems like we'll be getting him for around 30 to 35 million. And I don't think that's a bad deal at all because again, Garnacho does have loads of potential. So if he's able to reach 4/5 of that, then he'd be a very decent Premier League player, and I think someone that definitely lives up to that price tag of 30 million pounds, which is fairly cheap. So yeah, we'll see how this deal progresses, but I do expect some movement sometime soon on either the Xavi Simons front or the Garnacho front. And why is that? Excuse me, I completely forgot to put David Ornstein's report, so I will be right back. Okay, now we're back. Yeah, David Ornstein, 21 hours ago, said that RB Leipzig are stepping up talks with Chelsea over a deal to sign Christopher Nkunku. Direct contact between clubs on a permanent move for the 27-year-old Chelsea forward. Not close yet, still other options, but France International open to RB Leipzig return, per The Athletic. So, yeah, it seems like RB Leipzig are also in for Nkunku. Obviously, the Bayern Munich deal seems pretty much off now because they'll only be entertaining loans for the rest of the transfer window. Maybe with obligations to buy next summer, but Chelsea want the player off immediately on a permanent move. Nkunku understands that. Nkunku, I think, agrees with Chelsea's standpoint of only permanent moves. But he's open to returning to RB Leipzig, and apparently they are stepping up talks with Chelsea over a permanent move for Christopher Nkunku, per David Ornstein. Furthermore, if it allows me to, there we go. The Guardian said that there is confidence that a fee can be agreed between Chelsea and Leipzig for Nkunku. Inter Milan are also a club interested. We know that the Ademola Lookman deal fell through, so maybe they enter the race for Nkunku sometime soon. So maybe it is a two-horse race between Leipzig and Inter Milan. We'll definitely see in the coming days, but at least there's confidence if he can be agreed because, we know what our price tag on Nkunku is. I think Leipzig do know too because obviously they've been in negotiations for him for a decent amount of time now because at the end of the day, we are negotiating for Xavi Simons from them. And his name was something that came up in negotiations, Nkunku's name. So, I think Leipzig do know pretty much the structure of the deal that we'd be looking for Nkunku, as well as the personal terms that they need to agree with to bring Nkunku back to the club. So maybe something happens in the coming days. I do expect a Leipzig deal to advance a lot quicker than a Bayern Munich deal would or an Inter Milan deal would. So, we'll definitely see where Nkunku's future lies, and I think that will be determined in the coming days. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. But then again, to put it out there, when Nkunku does leave the club, we can expect a here we go for Xavi Simons or Garnacho pretty much in the coming hours after that or the day after that. So yeah, we'll definitely see what happens on the future of Nkunku sometime soon. And if there's any bids or anything like that, and if Chelsea are inclined to accept or not. But moving on to Nicholas Jackson, Matt Law said that Aston Villa explore viability of a move for Chelsea forward Nicholas Jackson, but it would not involve selling Ollie Watkins. And financial restrictions mean it's complicated. We know that Aston Villa aren't the strongest in terms of PSR, but they did sell Jacob Ramsey, so maybe that money that they got in for him means that they can explore a move for Nicholas Jackson, maybe a loan with an obligation, which I will talk about in a little bit. But maybe they do have the funds to actually bring in Nicholas Jackson. We'll definitely see how this deal progresses. But as of now, it seems like Villa are the most concrete suitor, and it seems like that's the team that is in for Nicholas Jackson the most as of now. So yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out for the future of Nicholas Jackson because I do think that's something that's determined in the coming days as well. And there's a couple of reports today on it. Um, yeah, this was actually yesterday. Ito Burgos said that Nicholas Jackson's future will be decided this week. The player is clear that he will leave, and Aston Villa is pushing hard. They want a loan with an obligation to buy. Nico likes the idea. Other teams have also approached his agency, and the clubs are Newcastle, Forest, Milan, Inter, or Juve. Um, so yeah, it's pretty much decided that Nicholas Jackson is going to leave the club, and it seems like again Aston Villa are the suitor, and they want a loan with an obligation to buy. And apparently Nico's in for that idea. I wouldn't be too against it. At the end of the day, we know that we value him around 80 million pounds. So if they give us some of that in a loan fee, and then the obligation covers the rest of our valuation, then I do expect Chelsea to be willing to accept because you know we are pretty much net zero in terms of transfer spending and transfer income this summer. So it's not like it's a necessity for Nicholas Jackson to you know leave and bring funds in for this summer. We can definitely take that money and allocate it towards next summer. So maybe Chelsea are open to the idea of a loan with an obligation to buy. Just no buyout clause like a Jadon Sancho deal where we had to pay 5 million, but he got the player off the books for us. So yeah, Aston Villa are pushing hard, and apparently it's a loan with an obligation to buy, and we'll see if that deal does happen in the coming days. We'll see if there's any bids or anything like that, but Nico Jackson is in favor of the idea. Um, and Ben Jacobs followed that up, saying that understand clubs interested in Nicholas Jackson are being told a loan with an obligation may be possible under the right conditions with a £10 million loan fee. Aston Villa are exploring a deal, and a Newcastle or Milan move can't be discounted. Jackson is expected to have several options if Chelsea's £80 million valuation drops south of £70 million. So, again, our valuation is at 80 million. If we get that 10 million pound loan fee, I expect us to take around 60 next summer. In the obligation, so that it drops to about 70 million pounds. But I do think that's our conditions on the deal. And I think Aston Villa are going to be the ones that do sign Nicholas Jackson because I don't know if Ollie Watkins stays or Ollie Watkins goes, but apparently Newcastle want to sign the player, so maybe he does head over to Newcastle and then Aston Villa come in for Nicholas Jackson permanently, or maybe Newcastle come in for Nicholas Jackson permanently. I don't know. There's multiple ways this deal could go, so we'll stay tuned for this. But it seems like Nicholas Jackson's future is headed to Birmingham in Aston Villa, so we'll see how this progresses. But if I were to make a guess right now, I do think he goes to Aston Villa, and I do think it's a loan with an obligation to buy. But we'll see how the valuation turns out, or if Villa just buy him outright. But I do expect him to become an Aston Villa player within the next week and a half or so. So yeah, we'll see how this deal progresses. But more Fabrizio this morning said that Jackson and Chelsea is over, basically confirming that there's nothing else. Jackson does not have a future at Chelsea, so all the fans saying, we'd look a different team if Nicholas Jackson was in the team. Well, he's never going to be in the team again. His career at Chelsea is over. He's headed to a different club. So yeah, we'll just see what that club will be, but I do fully expect it to be Aston Villa. But moving on, Ben Jacobs this morning with an exclusive said that Juventus have approached Chelsea about signing Carney Chukwuemeka. Chelsea continue to insist on a permanent transfer. Dortmund have already had multiple offers rejected. He he was on Talksport with his mate Alex Crook. But yeah, Chelsea apparently have been approached by Juventus about signing Carney Chukwuemeka. Alex Crook said that they're in for a loan deal, but Chelsea continue to insist on a permanent transfer. And then Fabrizio said that Chelsea remain very clear with all clubs interested in Carney Chukwuemeka. He's not available on loan. Chelsea only consider a permanent sale. So, we'll see if a team actually comes in for Carney Chukwuemeka permanently instead of just offering these loan deals, because it seems like everyone's offering loan deals, but maybe Borussia Dortmund come back to the table because Claudio Echeverri did end up going to Bayer Leverkusen, rejected Borussia Dortmund. And Manchester City, I guess, rejected Borussia Dortmund as well. So we'll definitely see how that all pans out. But I do fully expect Carney Chukwuemeka to leave on a permanent deal because I do expect him to have suitors. And I think Juve might actually be a suitor for him permanently. We'll see if anything happens on that situation in the coming days. If Juve say that they can pay for the player permanently or not, but you know um, Carney Chukwuemeka is not available on loan. It's only a permanent deal, and we know our valuation is probably around £25 million for him. So we'll see how that deal progresses. I guess Dortmund thought they had a lot more negotiating power than they actually do. They just don't seem too ambitious as a club. So we'll definitely see how this deal progresses because it's been an ongoing saga for I guess months now at this point. Um, with Dortmund just wanting loan after loan after loan, and Chelsea are like, dude, we're done loaning him out. We just want to sell him permanently, and then Juventus come in and we're like, oh, hey, maybe a permanent deal. No, they want a loan too. So we'll see if any team comes in for him permanently instead of just a loan deal. But again, Juve just got in Douglas Luiz money, so maybe they can fund the Chukwuemeka outgoing. But more, Edu Burgos been very reliable in the last couple of days. For some reason, said that Villareal is making calculations for Renato Veiga. Chelsea lowers its demands, they hope to reach an agreement for less than 30 million euros. They have a player's yes, a 6 to 7 year contract is expected for amortization. With Diarius, obviously the site he's with, I guess, kind of like a talk sport thing. But yeah, it seems like Villarreal are back in for Renato Veiga. Obviously, there was an exclusive a couple days ago that said that they submitted an official bid that Chelsea rejected. But then Fabrizio followed up saying that Villarreal have agreed personal terms with Renato Veiga. Talks are well underway with Chelsea. As exclusively revealed last week, the Spanish club is negotiating to agree on terms also with Chelsea. Current proposal 24 million euros plus add-ons, trying to get closer to the 30 million euro package. This is the last thing we're talking about in this video, by the way. It's been a very lengthy news video for being 9 a.m., so I expect a lot of news to come out today. But yeah, the current proposal is around a 30 million euro package, which is around 26 million pounds. And then I'm guessing we get a sell-on clause, but we know Renato Veiga does not have a future at this club. Even though people are saying, hey, maybe we can bring him back to the fold after the Levi Cole injury, it doesn't seem like he has a place here at all. So it seems like Chelsea are just looking to sell him, and it seems like Villarreal are the team that are furthest in for him, and I do expect a here we go for Renato Vega sometime soon. And I expect him to head to Villarreal, so, maybe that opens the door for a new center half to come in. I don't really know, because obviously he was a part of the bomb squad, so I don't know if him leaving means that we can bring a center half in or not, but yeah. Renato Vega is pretty much off to Villarreal, so we'll see how this deal progresses and how much money Chelsea are able to bring in. But as I said, a minute ago or so, that was everything in this video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to like and subscribe. All the support does mean a lot to me. My channel has grown a lot in the past couple of months, so thank you all so much for that. But yeah, collab coming out today with a special person, so look out on his channel. I'll link it down in the description. But as always, it's Repulse. I'm out. Thanks again for watching. Peace.